Hi, in this video, I think it's number 11 now. I'm starting to blur together all of these videos. Hopefully you're watching, hopefully you're learning. But in this video, I'm going to show you how do I take all that work I did in that pre-planning document or documents, and how do I translate them into one of my essay organizers. In this video, I'm going to use level 2. As you can see in my window, that is the one that starts with the reminders on the side and then space for me to write on. Okay? Just as a quick reminder, this is just an organizer. This is not the final draft you're going to turn in. If you were to turn this specific document into Canvas as your final draft, the plagiarizer detector would pick up all of this sidebar stuff and say that it's plagiarized. I'll show you what to do when you get done drafting. Okay? Um, so anyway, in this case, you're going to notice that it starts with the body paragraph 1. And you're going to be thinking, but Miss Harden, or whatever your teacher is, don't essays start with an introduction with your thesis? You're right. And your thesis ultimately will go at the end of your introduction paragraph. But a lot of times students really struggle with writing their introduction because the introduction serves to introduce what you will write. And it's really hard to introduce something you haven't written yet. So sometimes scholars and writers write their body paragraph arguments first. Then when they're done, they go back and they write their introduction. So in these organizers, you're going to notice that the first two organizers, the yellow ones, start with body paragraph. And as you scroll, then they're red and then they go to introduction and conclusion. When your draft is all done, you can copy and paste your paragraphs all together in one nice, neat, organized document according to MLA style. Okay? So if I'm starting out with my first body paragraph has to start with my first main idea or topic claim. I wrote that in, I think, step 6 of this document. Whoop, here I go again. So if I look over here, step 6, in my middle, I have my two main ideas. Now, I don't necessarily have to put them in any particular order. And in fact, I'm going to do this video with my second body paragraph. Or I'm going to start with this second main idea. So I'm going to copy this sentence because it is my main idea. I'm going to go over to my document again, and then I'm going to paste it. Okay? Since this is body paragraph 1, I might actually change my transitional word to a different transition word to introduce. The one I used before was firstly. I could use that one again. In Canvas, there is a space for you to have writing and drafting resources. One of them is this amazing document of sentence starters. Okay, and the sentence starters will help you find new ones as well. So anyway, I have my main idea, topic, claim. The next part, I have my evidence. You notice on the sidebar it says lead up, then the piece of evidence. I don't just plop my evidence in, I might want to introduce it a little bit. So if I were to go to my step 7, where I have all my evidence, this is where I might use this information, okay? So in this piece, I might want to use this first piece about how Isabella ruled instead of her son, okay? So I might copy this quote, but as I'm copying the quote, I'm taking note of where is it from and who is it by, okay? So I might use a transitional phrase like, for example. I might also use for instance or as illustrated by. There's lots of them in the sentence starter guide on Canvas. So, for example, as illustrated by, and I might put the author's name, Alison Weir in her book. And if I look back, her book's name was Queen Isabella. Queen Isabella. Now a book title, we'd want to italicize or underline. So, for example, as illustrated by Alison Weir in her book Queen Isabella. Okay. Now, before I plot my quote in, I might want to give us a little bit of things. Queens sometimes ruled for their sons. Now, I might give a little context, a little bit about the situation. And so if I remember from my research, in this point, I remember that this is the point where after her husband, King Edward II, lost his throne, make sure I spelled it right, Queen Isabella, oops, I know where I'm going to go. So after the king lost her throne, their son, Prince Edward, became king. Now, I also want to make sure my readers know that Prince Edward is a little boy at this time. He's not old enough to rule, so I might give us even more background information. Prince Edward was just a little boy. Now, I might give another transitional phrase to lead into my evidence. As a result, now I might give my information, my quote. Now, if I'm looking at this quote, I don't know the whole thing really fits my purpose. In fact, I think that I could probably just cut it out right here. So it reads, as a result, Isabella effectively practiced on him in his minority and ruled in his name. One of these tricky things, if you notice there's a quote within a quote, one of these little fun little rules you might learn is that the outside quotes are double quotes and the inside quotes are single. Okay. Now, because this is from a book by Alison Weir, I'm going to put Weir, and then I'm going to put the page number, which if I go back was on page 715. If this is from a website, I might just put the author, I might put the article title. It depends on all the situations. Now, here in my link sentence, I'm going to want to explain a little bit more about why this is important, okay? I can't let my audience just assume they know why this is important, okay? So, one thing I'm thinking about is Queen Isabella could have let other people rule. She could have let her brother rule. She could have let courtiers rule. She could have just passed it on to someone else. But instead, she took on that responsibility and she was strong and she ruled while her son was growing up. So instead of being weak and letting things happen, she took charge. Okay? So I'm going to start by kind of explaining that the way I might explain it out loud to someone who has no idea, because this is something I know about and others don't. So I might have a transitional phrase, or sometimes I might just launch into it. Because we're kind of showing the relationship between things. Queen Isabella could have let others rule while her son was growing up. You know what? I think I'm going to take that because out. Queen Isabella could have let others rule while her son was growing up. However, she decided to take on that responsibility herself. Boop-a-doo. Now, I'm going to keep going because I want to make sure. Why does that show that she is strong and powerful? Okay. She could have let others do the hard work of ruling a country, but she didn't. She used her strength to help to rule England in a difficult time that she was a powerful woman who was not a damsel in distress. Okay. So if you notice, I actually have quite a few sentences explaining my evidence. If we look, my quote is only about a sentence long, but my links are several sentences long. The vast majority of your writing should be your explanation of your quote. Now, if you notice, I have space for you to weave in another piece of evidence, okay? Then I also have a space for a conclusion sentence, okay? This is where you would, when you're done writing your second piece of evidence, your second link, you would wrap it up. This is where you tie those two pieces of evidence together. So if my second piece of evidence was about her staging a political revolt, I might take how she ruled instead of her son in that political revolt, and then I tie them together into how does that prove that she was a strong and powerful queen and not a damsel in distress. It almost acts like a mini conclusion paragraph for just your sentence. Okay? So that is how you might begin writing your body paragraphs. Hopefully that helps you get started. Thank you.